Well, good morning to you again this morning. Before I start, I just want to draw your attention to my newsletter, which I put out 4 times a year. And if anyone, and especially if those on the DVD are watching and they're interested in getting a DVD, I have a page down the back that you can just pop your name on and you can either get it by mail. Obviously, if you've got an email, I'd prefer to do it email because it is cheaper for us. But look, I've got loads of things. And on my website, and you'll find, and my website is Kaye's, K-A-Y-E-S, recipesandremedies.com. And you'll find loads of my last newsletters that you can download for free, and they've got great information. Copy them off, share them to your friends. I don't copyright them, just get them out there. This particular one is on wild edible plants. This one's on GMO. This one's on depression, how to help people with depression. This one's on fluoride. So I've got lots of different subjects. One's on fasting, on gluten and how it affects us. So, loads of information, and don't forget you can just download what you want. I've also got some recipes on my website. Some people were talking to me about gluten-free recipes. I've got some great pastry recipes, some cracker recipes. And if you want more, look, I've got loads of recipes. Just do email me and ask me. Somebody wanted some instructions how to make kefir. I've got that. I've got all these things ready to share with people and just give them the handouts. And so it's all been done, so it's really great. So if you're interested in that. Okay, back to our program. Now this is part 2. Part 1 we covered yesterday, and it dealt with all the different factors causing disease. Now I personally believe that disease has many factors. And it's not simply, like maybe it was years ago, it was just one factor would cause a disease. I don't know, but I tell you what, nowadays we are bombarded from so many different avenues. We've got so many different factors that are causing disease. And just remember, food manufacturers, anything that you buy, they are not interested in your health. They are just interested in your money. And so don't think that just because you buy something and you buy it, and you need to check labels, be very careful. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go through today. Yesterday we finished on stressed, that we work too hard. Now, I want to talk briefly about another cause, and that's vaccinations. Now, all vaccinations are loaded with chemicals and other poisons. Did you know that the vaccinations you're getting are loaded with mercury, aluminium, or formaldehyde, for one thing, for some of the things? So I am not saying that there are times when you shouldn't have vaccinations. Okay? Look, there are times when you need a vaccination, but I am not talking about just the general run-of-the-mill vaccination.
Were they always like that way back in the 50s and 60s?
From what I understand, even in the 50s and 60s, they had other viruses in them that they don't know about. Now, when I was a girl, I had polio, the Salk vaccinations, and we had needles. And not only did we have needles, I can remember being lined up at school, and they used the same needle on all the kids, and they just wiped the needle with a bit of metho. And, we're still here. I don't know if that's why some of the health problems some of the people are having. I'm sure that some of these things are contributing factors, but I don't know. But look, all I know is that we need to be on the best possible diet and lifestyle that we can be now to counteract any problems that we may have had and may have done to ourselves years ago. And it's interesting that vaccines have many side effects. The most common side effects may seem mild, but they also link to autism. Now, I told you yesterday that autism is linked to wrong intestinal flora in the children. Okay, plus vaccines can be also linked to autism. And we need to be educated on it. And it's interesting because did you know that years ago, nowadays they've got something called a chicken pox vaccination. But did you know what? When I was young, I got the chicken pox. Now, as I grew older, older people, every time they supposedly come in contact with children, maybe their grandchildren or kids, and they've got the chicken pox, that will reboost. It'll be like a booster shot to them. But because everybody seems to, all the kids are having chicken pox vaccinations, and that's why there's such an uprise in shingles in older people. Same virus, same family of viruses, and because the adults are not getting boosters by being exposed to kids with chicken pox, they are coming down with shingles. Okay, another one that I wanted to talk to, another point, is radiation, microwaves, mobile phones, TVs, computers and X-rays. These are big, this wasn't around, like when I was a girl. Years ago, the TV, they used to have an aerial on your roof and that's how it would bring that signal down into your house. Nowadays, if you've got a mobile phone just here in your bag, everywhere, we've got mobile phone radiation coming everywhere, bombarding all of us, even if we don't use a mobile phone. Our bodies work on electrical currents and they can be disturbed by these radio frequencies or these high frequency fields, and they set up the body for disease. Now, UV radiation, it comes from your computers, it comes from your mobile phones, and what happened to me is my sister got quite ill, she had an accident, she broke both of her knees. Okay, and so she was sitting in one of these chairs that have, they're automatic lifters up. They've got a little computer in them, and so it lifts her right up so it helps her get out. As she was recovering, now she spent probably 2 years in those chairs, that chair, and she found that she was getting sick and she couldn't work out why. Why was she feeling like this? Anyhow, she was just doing a bit of detective work herself, and she found out that her chair, which she was sitting in, has dirty electricity. And she bought one of these meters. There's a little meter that can measure the dirty electricity that comes out of different devices. And she found it was astronomical as she was sitting in a chair. So she pulled it out. Now, a lot of computer companies now are using mats, earthing mats, that you can you plug this mat into your power socket, but it's not electrical. You don't switch any current on it. It's got no electric current going through it, but it uses the earth of your house, so you're earthing outside and you're touching the ground. And see, what we do is most of us walk around all the day. We've got rubber sole shoes on. Guess what? We're not earthing. We're not getting out and touching the ground with our feet. You need to de-stress. You need to get out and you need to walk barefoot on the ground. Ideally, a couple of minutes a day. And that will it gets rid of the static electricity build up in our body. So we need to be touching the ground. So go barefoot. You can go in shoes if your shoes are not rubber soled. If you've got leather soled or something like that. But even in thongs, thongs would be, you'd be that barrier between yourself and the ground. So you need to make sure you touch ground, and you can do it on cement if it's unpainted, but you generally make sure you earth. And it's quite interesting because you can go around and you can get a bit of an idea how much dirty electricity in your house is by getting a transistor radio, turning it off station and just winding it up, the volume up, and you just get the static and you walk around. And I've done that in my house, and I've gone near a fluorescent light and it goes crazy. I've walked around, I've gone over, and I've got a Thermomix. I've gone near my Thermomix. I tell you what, that just goes off the planet. There is so much radiation coming from that. So all of these electrical appliances that have got a computer in them, especially, are just very, very emitting so much dirty electricity. So just remember that can play havoc with your health. Now, obviously, I don't believe it's the only thing, but it's one of the things. And it can be the straw that breaks the camel's back, as it was in the case of my sister. She just knew something was up. And the moment she started earthing and had this mat that she sat on, and she put her feet on this mat, it just eliminated all that problem. Oops, my back of here has fallen off.
What's that mat?
It's called an earthing mat. Just check online, you'll find it. There's information online. She found it on, but it's for dirty electricity. Just go in there and search it out. Okay, the next one is root canal and mercury fillings. Now, some of you would know all about this. You know, when I was a girl, you'd go in to the dentist and you'd have a little hole in your teeth, and they'd just empty, they would just drill the whole tooth out, and they just fill, and your tooth was nearly just all mercury. And that's what happened. That's what the dentists did those years. Nowadays they're much more careful. They don't drill such big holes. So most of the people my age, just if we had one little hole, you'd end up with a mouthful of mercury fillings. And what happens is you get mercury poisoning from it. Few things you can detox. You know one way, excellent way to detox from mercury poisoning is getting onto calcium bentonite clay, charcoal. Another thing that detoxes is raw potato juice. Some of your herbs do it. Your chlorella and your spirulina, and your chlorella, isn't it? They detox from mercury. So just get onto them, but you need to realise that root canals too. Don't get a root canal. They are very, very dangerous. People have root canals. It's very interesting that they said that in a 5-year study, 300 breast cancer patients, 93% of the women had root canals. And there's no other medical procedure that involves allowing a dead body part to remain in your body. And that's what it is. It's a dead body part.
What can you do if you've already had one?
If you've already had one, well, you'd go to your dentist. I'm unsure. I think that they can. I just have to get it out.
Yeah.
Just get it out. It's the safest way. Just eliminate it. I've had some people I've known that they have been sick for so many years and they didn't know why they were sick, and it was just mercury fillings.
I did, and I had the whole lot out and I was better.
You got your whole lot of your teeth out.
And I also had to I had herb cleanse as well.
Yeah, okay, and she had to have a cleanse as
I
well.
was really sick.
Yes.
Really sick.
If you can't afford to get your fillings out and your detox, does that help you?
Yes, it would if you can't afford your fillings out and you need to detox, okay? But the point of it is you need to make sure that you're getting rid of toxins out of your body. Look at ways to detox from heavy metals. And I just told you a few, but look, I can't go into that now. I would just sidetrack, and I don't want to spend time on those things here. Okay, but by the way too, your toxicity, that mercury can affect your brain. It really does. Now the next one, this is a really important one. I want to spend a lot of time on this, well, not a lot of time, but a little bit more time on that. And this is called excitotoxins. Now, some of you people may be aware and they've heard of them, but some people may not have heard of them. What is an excitotoxin? Well, an excitotoxin is a chemical that is added to food. And do you know what most of the time it's called? Natural flavourings, hydrolyzed vegetable protein, hydrolyzed plant protein, and it's found in so many things. Now, most people are aware that we shouldn't have aspartame. Now, aspartame is that sweetener that they're putting into diet foods and diet cokes and diet drinks. You know, it's a sweetener. But then a lot of people don't know there's a savoury excitotoxin. Now, what is an excitotoxin? Okay, do you know what an amino acid is? Amino acid is a breakdown of protein. Okay, it's part of your food molecule. What somehow or other science is able to split that protein molecule and extract out of there certain amino acids. Now those amino acids, they can act on your taste buds on your tongue, and do you know what? They taste delicious. They are your taste-enhancing substances in food. So what happens is that the food manufacturers have decided, and they all found, the Japanese found it and put it in their Japanese soldiers' rations during the war. And they were taken, when the Japanese soldiers were taken prisoners, the Allies who got their food rations couldn't work out how come they had such tasty food. Why? Because the Japanese hadn't found out that they just need to sprinkle this bit of powder over their food and makes everything taste scrumptious. Beautiful. Okay, excitotoxins. There are over 70 excitotoxins. You have a blend of a certain excitotoxins and it will give you a creamy taste. You have another blend of excitotoxins that will give out a beefy taste. Now, I personally have not found one savoury, they're in a lot of soups and bouillon cubes, these stock cubes. I personally have not found one stock cube or stock bouillon cube or flavour enhancer that has not got it in. It is in all of the things. It is, and they are, what do they do to us? Okay, they excite our brains, they stimulate our brain, they cause brain tumours, they kill cells in the brain. They cause brain tumours, any neurodegenerative diseases like MS, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and very susceptible if you've had a stroke or if you had any brain damage. They are just so deadly. MSG is its purest form, but they are sneaky. They don't put it under MSG. There are 70 different names.
One's carrageenan and it's in our sanitary and so good.
Yeah, look, carrageenan, yes. But probably they're in Marmite, they're in Vegemite, they're in any of your yeast extracts, they're in most of your tomato sauces, they're in most of your, almost all of your canned foods, almost all of them. They are anything that's got natural flavourings in, you can be pretty much assured it would be excitotoxin. Sorry, I didn't hear that. I haven't heard of that. I'm sorry, I don't know.
It's a good herb.
Okay, it's a herb. I'm sorry, I haven't heard of it. A certain herb that they were talking about. Okay, so what we need to do is be very, very careful what we're putting into our food. And cancer, sudden heart attack. Have you ever heard of somebody who's running around, they're super fit, and they've just had, probably it's not, you don't hear about it, but they've just had a bowl of MSG soup, they've gone for a run, and they've had a sudden heart attack. Probably because they've got low magnesium in their body, they need to make sure that's up, and you can have a sudden heart attack because you have had a food with MSG in it. And it's not called MSG, remember it's called, it's yeast, any flavoursome, and it's also sprinkled over your potato wedges. Now, how is it made? What they do, this is how hydrolyzed vegetable protein is made. This is just one of the excitotoxins. They take a vat of vegetables, they boil them with hydrochloric acid, they neutralise it with caustic soda, and guess what? There's a sludge rises to the top, and that is scraped off, and it tastes delicious. And it's sprinkled, dried out, and it's sprinkled over your food. It's in potato wedges. It's in anything flavoursome, any of those really nice. Now, you need to be discerning. Watch your labels, because almost all processed food it is in nowadays. And it is. Yeah, MSG, but they're tricky. You see, what they do is they're not giving you, and they know that MSG is something that most people avoid, but they're using other names now, and they're putting the same, it's MSG, but under a different name, and it's labelled as, yeah, you're right, 621 is MSG, but what about carrageenan? What about hydrolyzed plant protein? What about autolyzed yeast? What about all these other names? They're also They're also excitotoxins. So anything you've got your marmot, another one too which we've also found it in, and this is very sad about these girls, is in your savoury yeast flakes. Yeah, that's also excitotoxins. What it is, it's and what makes it hard is it is actual food. They say, oh, it's natural flavourings. Yes, because it is food. But what it is, our bodies are not designed to have such concentrated extracts of food. It's like if you can understand, it's the extracted part of the food. Our body is used to having the food in its entirety. And your body can handle it in its entirety, but not in an extracted, concentrated form. In Bragg's liquid aminos, in most of your soy sauces, you need to be very careful. Soy sauce is pretty much right. Whole soybeans are fine, like the tamari one, but I don't even use that one much. I'm really reluctant to use that one too much. I flavour with miso, which is a cultured, so you can make on miso on soybeans, you can make it on barley, you can make it on rice, you can make it on different things, so it's a cultured thing. Okay, so that's another topic. You see, most people don't know about it and they don't realise that they're eating all these things and they're wondering why so-and-so's had a stroke. Guess what? It's just setting yourself up for that. Okay, the next one is genetics. Now, do genes have a part to play in the causing of diseases? Well, do you know they say there is an element, a very small one, because most people tell you out there in the world, oh, I've got breast cancer because it's in my genes. My mother had it, my grandmother had it, and all that. We don't believe that. We believe it's diet and lifestyle. But genetics show where your weakness is. That's what genetics do. I personally have a weakness for asthma, bronchial type of things. My husband has a weakness for his skin problems. Somebody else might have a weakness for brain problems. Someone else might have a weakness for kidney problems, for liver problems, whatever. Somebody else has got a weakness for arthritis. My friend, she has a weakness, or everyone in her family has heart problems. She knows that's her weakness. So genetics show where your weakness is. Okay, now this is a really good one. Refined sugar, refined salt, high fructose, corn syrup and refined fructose. Now, is sugar a food or is it a poison? I noticed there's a book up there and it's an excellent book. It's called Sugar Blues by William Dufty. It's a poison. Lots of my talk for sugar, when I do the full sugar talk, is used Sugar Blues as a reference book for it because it's so interesting. So that's very important that we understand that sugar is not a food, it's a poison. Why? It's depleted. The moment we eat it, for us to digest it, to us to assimilate it into our body, it will extract and it will leach out minerals and vitamins out of our body just to digest it. So really it's not only an empty food, but it robs us of vitamins and minerals. So if you look, one of the biggest causes for all the problems in the world today, in the health problems, is all the sugars. And how many of us have a sweet sugar tooth? And if we're honest, a lot of us do. And to get rid of that sugar tooth, that sweet tooth, you really need to counteract. And you need to start having fresh, wild, edible greens. I tell you what, that gets rid of them. You get such I'm quite used to my edibles now, my wild greens, and that even though they're quite bitter, I'm getting used to them. I'm not saying I'm liking them. Did you notice that? I'm saying I'm getting used to them. But it does take away your sweet tooth. You don't look for that sweetness. And what you've got to do is not feed that sweet tooth.
Dandelion and pu'er.
Yeah, dandelion is excellent. Now, lots of those things, and that's what in that wild edible article that I do. That's one of my favourites. I just love talking about herbs and what herbs you can use and what you can't use, and what going out there grazing in your on the grass, picking what you can. You know, we need to know all these things. Okay, but there's another one which I want to touch to you about is high fructose corn syrup. It's loaded in most of your food products nowadays, especially in your soft drinks, anything sweet. Now, high fructose corn syrup, they use a process to extract that, and it is double worse than sugar. Now, I told you how bad sugar is. High fructose corn syrup is double as bad, and it will cause your liver to swell up like a balloon. It will cause you to get fat. You will have an alcoholic liver. And that's why so many of these young people, they are so young, they're drinking these sodas, which are loaded with high fructose corn syrup. And do you know what? They may be only teenagers and they've got the livers of alcoholics. They have got fatty liver disease because that's what this causes. It acts on their liver in the same way as alcohol does. So just remember, and not only that, high fructose corn syrup, the chances are it will be made from genetically modified corn as well, especially if it came from America, which most of us would.
Fructose, fruit sugar.
Okay, fructose, fruit sugar, yes, if you're having your fruit as an entire, like if you're having an apple, yes. Don't go for any of these powdered fruits. Okay, if you want to sweeten anything, sweeten it with a little bit of honey or a little bit of maple syrup or something like that. But don't go for your powder because that's extracted. Our bodies are not designed to have this extracted food. And you're just giving yourself a nice sweet tooth, and you're just feeding that sweet tooth. And you know what? We don't deserve to have our sweet tooths fed anymore. We need to get rid of them. It's been causing our body so much problems, and we're causing ourselves to get into poor health because we've got a sweet tooth. We owe it to our bodies to get rid of that sweet tooth and just get into vegetables and wholesome food. Okay, next is no sunshine and vitamin D. Now this is a really interesting one because in Australia, there's a slip, slop, slap campaign that tells everybody you've got to cover, you're not to get out in the sunshine. But you know, something has happened. Something has happened in our world. We are not getting enough sunshine. Did you know that in America, 95% of the people have vitamin D deficiency? Now, I looked on the website, on the Australian website, and they said 50% Australian have vitamin D deficiency. But then I heard another guy who was a researcher, he said 90% of Australia have vitamin D deficiency. So I know it's huge, it's high. Why? Why are we getting vitamin D deficiency? I heard it over here and I believe you're right. Okay, I believe chemtrails are stopping us getting our vitamin D. Now, do you know why? I watched there's a geoengineering, I think it is .org. That's on chemtrails. That's a website on chemtrails. I looked at that one day and I found a link to sunshine not getting enough. Did you know 50 years ago, for 50 years in Israel, there's been a group of people. They have put a dish of water out in the sunshine and watched how it'll evaporate. I mean, it's very scientific, but it's been accurate. They found that in the last 50 years, we have had 20% less sunshine reaching the Earth's surface compared to 50 years ago. Do you ever notice how you see the chemtrails go over and all of a sudden, as they dissipate, the sky will just go silvery? And you don't see a beautiful blue sky anymore. Okay, this has got to do with it. Okay, which leads on, the chemtrails lead us on to the pesticide chemicals in soil, in animals, in air, on plants and in water. Okay, there's pesticides and chemicals everywhere. How can we avoid them? How can we avoid the chemicals in the soil sprayed on plants? The preservatives found everywhere in food. What about the fumes, the plastics, the chemical, like the chemical fumes inside? And as I said, look up and just see the chemtrails that are going over. How can we avoid them. Well, you know something? We can't. We're all in this world together, aren't we? So we've just got to do the best we can. God is giving us the knowledge, and that's something I want to share with you. And I just want to speak, because I found this out, and I want you to, that it was really bothered me when I found out, and I found out about chemtrails. Because I thought, what are they doing this for, you know? They're doing it to themselves as well, you know? Whoever's them is, you know, you don't know who them is. And I thought, I wonder if Ellen White had anything to say about it. Okay, guess what I found? 3 selected messages, 391. Listen carefully. God has not restrained the powers of darkness from carrying forward their deadly work of vitiating the air, one of the sources of life and nutrition, with a deadly miasma. Okay, and you know what vitiating means is lessening the purity of. Okay? Not only is vegetable life affected, but man suffers from pestilences. Cholera and unexplainable diseases have broken out. And then she goes on. And she says there, now look, I'm not going to read, there's a whole paragraph and I don't have time, but she says, these things are result from the drops from the vials of God's wrath being sprinkled on the earth and are but a faint representation of what will be in the near future. So we've got some really horrendous things. So just remember, and this is my suggestion to you. If you think I must find out about chemtrails, which I believe we need to know about and be educated about, but do not get absorbed in worrying about chemtrails. Do you know something? We have to get over-absorbed in worrying about having our life right with Christ. He's the one who can save us. He's the one who can shield us from chemtrails. Knowing all about the chemtrails is not going to... I can't do anything about it, but I can do something about my relationship with God, because He's the one who's going to save me and protect me. And so that has to be my focus. I'm aware of it, and I like to share it with people because I like people to know what's happening in our world, because it can wake up some people to realise, hey, things are going on that we've got no control over, but we have to have our life right with Christ. That's what it's all about. Okay, I could go on there for ages. I could talk all these for ages here.
What about breathing problems?
Well, breathing problems in a way.
Well, I had unsympathetic bedmates there, but
yeah.
I had about 6 hours of trying to get my breath.
Okay, well, yeah, well, that's another subject. Okay, let's keep going. Fluoride in water. Okay, now, where I come from, our water is fluoridated. Do you know what it does to your water? It does to your body. You've got problems in your bones, you've got problems, and do you know what? It dumbs down your brain. They know, and Hitler did it in the concentration camps in Europe. And I can assure you Hitler wasn't worried about the people's teeth. I can assure you that. He just knew that you can control people by dumbing them down, by giving them fluoride. And not only that, you find mega amounts of thyroid problems. Well, thyroid problems are really made worse because there's fluoride in people's drinking water. That's one of the compounding problems to get thyroid problems. So we've got all these problems. And not only that, you can also even have it in your shower and also when you're drinking on your vegetable garden. Did you know I have a friend who has town water, plus she has tank water, and she's got a beautiful garden. And she said when she runs out of tank water, she said she switches onto town water, and she says she notices the difference in her vegetables, how vegetables don't do near as well on town water. You can hear a lot of people agreeing with that. And so if you have tank water... Yes. Okay, well, it's legislated now. They're bringing back to Australia where a lot of people are getting tanks, but you're not allowed to use it for drinking water. You're only allowed to use it for your toilets and those sort of things. But, yeah. I personally am in a town. I have a reverse osmosis water filter, which I've used for years, and I love it. And what else can you do? To me, it's important we drink good water. You need to have water. You need to have a supply where you can drink loads and loads of water, because that's a problem. The next problem,
Your tank water, do you?
I have a reverse osmosis,
Yeah,
purified water.
Yeah.
Okay, which leads me to the next one. And most people in the world are dehydrated. They're not drinking enough water. We need to drink lots, and we're not talking about drinking teas, coffees. We're not thinking about all that. Do you know, asthma is caused from chronic dehydration. Do you know something? When we breathe out water vapour. So our body is saying, oh, I don't want to get rid of that water vapour. It's trying to hold on to it, so it's shutting down your bronchioles so we don't get rid of as much water vapour. Okay, so we need to realise asthmatics, chronic dehydration. My mother was an asthmatic, and she actually died many years ago having an asthma attack, and I look back on her life, she hardly drank any water. I mean, if I'd have known now, or then what I know now, she may have lived, but I didn't know it. She didn't know it, you know. That's another subject, which is... Okay, pure water toxicity. Okay, and toxicity in your water. Just watch it there. If I switch that off. Wrong button. Overeating. Did you know that we have been given counsel? We've been given counsel in our books that of most health reformers, one of the problems they do, most people overeat.
Yeah.
And that's what causes fogging of the brain, dulling of your brain. And it's really sobering to me, because I tell you, I said to you yesterday, one of the easiest things, we can have all intentions of being temperate and not overeating, and guess what? All of a sudden it just happens, and all of a sudden you've just got it in your mouth and you haven't even thought about it. I can see people nodding. You know what it's like? We need to also about eating too fast. Hardest thing to do is to slow down and to chew your food thoroughly. I can remember one lady, Agatha Thrash from America, I remember watching one DVD of hers, and she said that of all the things that she teaches the people, she said the hardest thing that people will actually do is learn to slow down their food eating. It's very hard. Okay, I've actually been doing, and I spoke to somebody about it this week, I've actually tried to learn to have more control over my appetite, and I've said to the Lord, I'm going to fast one day a week. So we've been fasting.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. It's biblical too.
We have been Peter and I have been fasting one day a week. Now we choose the day that suits us. Everybody would choose a different day. We choose a Monday, and that suits me. But you know, I'm finding I'm learning a lot about myself. And you know, it's really interesting, because as I'm sharing this with people, a lot of other people, they're starting on it too, because they've been convicted on it too. And it seems to be happening. There's a lot of people who are doing it now. And we realise if we want to get our life right and we're serious with our walk with God, it's teaching us something. Now, I say it's not something that you have to do or anything like that. I'm just telling you what I do. Because I felt convicted for a while. And, you know, I'm surprised how easy it is. It's not hard. I just drink lots of water during the day, and that's it. And it's quite easy because you don't have any cooking to do, and I like it. I like it. Okay, now this is the last one of these 26 points, and this is a big one. This is the emotional aspect. This is the mind part of it. Getting it right, you know, so because so many people have emotional issues. They have eating problems. They just eat because they have emotional problems. They have maybe unforgiveness, hatred, fear, worry, rebellion, hurt, anger, and what we take into our minds. Do you know what? We can never ever be healthy if we have bitterness in our heart. You know, I shared with you on Friday night about getting those feelings. Remember? Feelings buried alive never die. How do we get those feelings out? Well, you need to watch the DVD or remember back what I said on last Friday evening. But you know, I believe we need to be emotionally healthy. We need to bring these to God. Because if we don't, these emotions will be still inside of us, And I have at home a chart of pages and pages of diseases that each one of them has emotional issues that they're responsible for. So if you suffer from heart problems, well, do you know there's a set of emotional diseases that will trigger heart problems? If you suffer even from acne, there's a set of problems that will promote that. So every disease, and look, there would be hundreds of them. They all have emotional root problems, and that's why we need to be able to be free from these emotions, these detrimental emotions, because they play havoc with our health. And we need to say, God, give me your spirit, and that's what it is. So here we have all of these causes of diseases. Now, which of the arrow is the one that caused the poor little fella to die? Do you know, I believe it's all of them. And if anybody has found and thought of another one, please let me know. I'll add it to the talk. But if I could sum them up, I would say malnutrition, dehydration, stress, and toxicity are the causes of diseases. They're not getting enough nutrition in. We need to have good quality food. Dehydration. Everything has just stopped working properly. Stress and toxicity. Or summing it all up, everything is constipated. Everything. Nothing's moving. There's nothing moving in or nothing moving out. So now I'm going to go over to, as I said, God has given us some simple remedies to help us regain our health. Now these are the remedies. We call them the 8 laws of health, and I'm just going to touch on them to finalise this talk. But do you know, I'm talking about the first one is nutrition. Do you know, when we look at nutrition, we often say a vegan diet. Do you know what, there's a lot of now groundswell saying don't call it vegan, because you know what, you can be extremely unhealthy on a vegan diet. You can eat donuts and be a vegan. You can eat all this takeaway rubbish and be a vegan. But if you eat, and the word is whole food plant-based diet, eat nutrient-dense foods. We need carbohydrates, fats and proteins, vitamins, minerals. We need I'm talking about no animal, just as I summed up in the earlier section on this talk. But we need to have very little toxic waste brought into our body, clean as we possibly can, and we're going to get it with a whole food plant-based diet. Foods that do not form toxins, but they detoxify. Okay, the next one, exercise. Get enough exercise. And how many people here find it hard? This is the hardest one to get moving. Hardest one to get moving, isn't it? We need to exercise, get moving. And a really good one is to get your heart rate. Even if you can't go out, you know, they're saying now this intermittent exercise is very beneficial. That means you get your heart rate up, and you just, even if you run on the spot for 1 minute, 2 minutes, get your heart rate up, and you just do that a few times a day. You need to get your heart rate up. And that's going to exercise and strengthen your heart. So just think, get into an exercise program. The next one is pure water inside and out. We talked about that in a moment, but also remember the laws of health says it's pure, the proper use of water. Now we're talking about the proper use of water means using water on the inside, like as I said, to not to have your body dehydrated, but using water as hydrotherapy. We are having so much success using hydrotherapy. And you know what is my desire for every single person in this room to know how to do simple hydrotherapy treatments. We need to know them because we've all got friends, we've all got relatives who are sick as anything out there, and they can be helped by using hydrotherapy. We need to know how to do proper fermentations. We need to know how to do all of those things because it's so important. I've had so many beautiful stories using fermentations of people who have been, the chronic back pain, how to relieve back pain. Hydrotherapy. We need to know about it.
If you cryocritically prayer over the water, it improves it, changes the structure of it.
Yes, if you prayer over water, it changes the structure, and that's true. All of these laws of health need to be in conjunction with our loving Lord and Saviour, and that's so I'm going to wind that up in a minute. Okay, water inside and out. Here we've used water externally used in hydrotherapy, fermentations and compresses, hot packs, ice, steam and pain relief. We need to know how to do that and practice that on our friends, family and whoever. Okay, the next one is sunshine. Get regular sunshine. Now, I spoke about this before, but take time to sit in the sun. And I'm surprised there's so few people who actually do it. And especially if your skin is a darker colour, you need more sunshine. You need more sunshine than a fair-skinned person. But we need to get out in the sun. And I'm not talking about sunbaking and frying yourself up in the middle of the day. I'm talking about just getting vitamin D. You need to be in the sunshine, exposing yourself to the rays of the sun. There is healing power in the sun. Such a healing power in the sun. Temperance. Avoid all those harmful products. We've talked about that yesterday, about your cigarettes, alcohol, coffee, tea, chocolate, cola, soft drinks, sweets, ice cream, your altered fats, all those things. No eating between meals. Not overeating. Not too many foods at the same meal. That's another one too. And you know something, for Peter and I, for probably 25 years, we've eaten 2 meals a day. Love it. Now, when I come here, it's a social thing. I just have a little bit to eat over night time. But you know something, I'm quite happy to go without that. My body is used to it. I don't need that 3rd meal a day. And you know what? Your body is able to repair and restore and regenerate from lunchtime to breakfast time. So it's really pretty much an 18-hour fast every day. And your body does. I know it does. It's helped us heaps. We love it. And even Peter, when he eats something of an evening, you know, as I said, occasionally we'll do it, but you eat something, and I just realise now I don't eat much, but even then sometimes I think, why did I eat that? Anyhow. The next one is fresh air. We talked about this, and a few people have approached me about this, about learning to deep breathe. Remember, we misunderstand the power of deep breathing. We need to really get into it and learn to deep breathe. The next one is proper rest. Getting to bed too early. I tell you what, in my home, my family know they don't ring me after 7:30, 8 at night. You know, we're early to bedders in our house. So, you know, like somebody rang up at 9 o'clock probably a couple of weeks ago, and it just woke me up, and I couldn't get back to sleep then for hours and hours and hours, you know, because your body is so tuned to going to bed early. And I get up early. I'm up at the crack of dawn. I'm actually before dawn. We're up before when the birds are just getting outside. We get up every morning. We have a routine. We're up at 4:20 every morning. I do my Bible study, and Peter does his Bible study. We're in separate rooms. And then at 6 o'clock we come together and we have our reading and our worship together. We've been doing this for so many years, and we do a reading from the Spirit of Prophecy. And I was just telling Brother Dennis that over the years since we've been doing this, we've read the Conflict of the Ages series through quite a number of times. I think we've been through the Desire of Ages about 10 or 12 times. We've been through the entire testimonies. We've been through nearly all the basic Ellen White books, right through them. And you do it for years. You know, eventually you start learning and you read things, and all of a sudden you're there. I mean, for me to say, oh, I've read through the entire testimonies is something else. But That's why. That's when we've done it in our worship time together. And then we get up and we go for a walk. And then we come back. We're back probably about 20 to 7, quarter to 7, and then we have breakfast. It's been our routine for years and years and years.
What's your breakfast? What do you have for breakfast?
What do I have for breakfast? Just usually some fruit and some nuts and seeds and maybe a bit of kefir, something not too much. When I eat breakfast, the reason I find personally, if I eat those ground seeds and nuts, that just holds me to lunchtime. I just know, and I know how much to eat, and it just keeps me going. I try not to overeat, and I'm more and more conscious of that as I'm going into my Christian walk, not to overeat, and believe me, I fail. I'm like all of us, we've got this, all of a sudden you think, oh, I'd like to eat that. But generally, if I know, and it's easier when you're by yourselves, you don't have family around you.
What about forgetting to eat?
I forget to eat. I don't forget to eat.
I think Kaye finished. She's under a time constraint.
Yes. Okay. So, what was I up to now? Rest, proper rest. So getting to bed early, and we just have, our routine is the same. Because we're of that age, we're very disciplined with our routine. And we get that proper rest. And also it's resting on Sabbath, that's part of it too. Learning to relax, learning to put it all aside. Okay, now I've also added in here natural remedies and herbs. Because even though I'm talking about the 8 laws of health, and these fit in the 8 laws of health, just like hydrotherapy fits in the water one, natural remedies herb fit in the nutrition one, but we're putting nutrition on the outside of our skin, aren't we? We're putting poultices. Poultices are usually just vegetable matter. They're put on the outside, aren't they? So we're just putting vegetables on the outside as well as on the inside. But yet I wanted to specifically these are first aid treatments. God has given us the 8 laws of health as preventative. Our hydrotherapy, our natural remedies and our herbs are really as a first aid treatment to help people. So we can use, look, I could talk to you for days on natural remedies and herbs. I just love them. They're my favourite. I just have so many stories of so many people being helped with using natural remedies and herbs. And the final one is trusting in God. We need to learn to give God everything. And this is the hardest one that we're coming in. We say it, yes, I want to give God everything, but do we actually do it in our practical life, in our spiritual life? And we've got to remember that God does the healing. Now, I'm speaking to you how we're being bombarded by so many things. We have to have the right mindset as far as with God for the healing to happen in our life. He's given us these laws of health. He wants us to be healthy. God's aim is for us to be healthy. Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in good health. God desires us to be healthy physically and spiritually. His desire is that we are healthy physically and spiritually. I've talked to you about we are being bombarded everywhere by so many different things in the world, everywhere ever. But I want you to take out your Bibles. I want you to turn to Psalm 91. Psalm 91. And I just wanted to go through some of these because here we have promises from the God. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In Him will I trust. We're going to have a lot more things happen to us in the future. We have to have our trust in Him. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. Did you know I've looked up that word noisome, and it's in, every time Ellen U. White used it, it was in the context of very final day events. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked, because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, and lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon shalt thou trample under the feet. Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honour him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation. Do you know, I love that. And you know, a number of times when God says, when you call, I will answer. Don't you want to have that relationship with God? Because you see, the last day people who are going to come through and who are being bombarded with all these things I've shared with you, they are going to have the protection of the Almighty. So our focus has to be on knowing Christ. That's where our focus has to be on. Yes, be aware of all these other problems that are happening. We can't walk around and just say, oh, you know, God will protect me, and yet eat and do anything we choose to do. We have to know that God says our bodies are a temple of the Holy Ghost, and we are not to defile the temple. And we are to present our bodies as a living sacrifice. Remember that?
Yeah. Hallelujah.
God wants us. He wants us to be strong, be in good health, but know about these things. And we have to be educated enough so we can share them and warn other people around it, because they don't know what we know. They don't know and they don't understand. Their only hope is to coming in under Christ, abiding in Christ, under his protection, under his shadow of his wings, remember? We have to be able to share with people not only the what's happening in the world, but we have to tie it in with Christ. Because you can't have one without the other. The physical and the spiritual have to go hand in hand together. So, I hope you've learned something during this talk. Let's... Well, I won't have time just now. I'm finishing up now, thank you. Okay, let's just bow in prayer. Let's finish. Heavenly Father, we indeed are grateful. We indeed are thankful that you reveal to us all the truths you are. We have been such blessed people. And Lord, you know that in the past, most of us have just sat on this information. We haven't got out this information. And we are told that the health message is the right arm of the gospel. We know that it opens up doors, it opens up hearts. So Lord, we just pray that you would use us, each one of us. We all know that we're weak, we're feeble, we can't say things in the proper way we would like to say them. But we know that we can do it with you living in our hearts. We know we can say the right things if you're inside our lives. Lord, we just pray for this. We want to be ready when Jesus comes. This is our prayer, and we want to bring as many others as we can to you to say, Lord, here's some people. And so he can say to us, our Jesus can say to us, thank you, you good and faithful servants. This is our prayer in your name. Amen.